It's true that life doesn't always go according to plan. Sometimes people will unfairly blame you. Situations will force you to make split-second decisions, and anger can boil over, making you want to lash out. But it's worth asking ourselves, are these reactions truly necessary? Or could it be that life isn't as chaotic as we perceive it to be? A key factor is how we choose to respond. While our brains are often wired for immediate reactions, wisdom lies in pausing and carefully considering our actions. The idea is that you can gain significant control over your perception of the world, not by suppressing emotions or becoming cold-hearted, but through something more powerful: awareness. By cultivating this awareness, you can fundamentally change your approach to life. So let's begin by exploring why responding is indeed more important than simply reacting in today's fast-paced world. We've all seen people who impulsively react to everything, only to later regret their words or actions. Modern life's demands for constant readiness can unintentionally make us more impulsive than thoughtful. Reacting means acting on instinct. An event triggers an overwhelming emotional response, leaving no room for conscious thought, only an outburst. In contrast, responding involves creating a pause, allowing for thought, understanding, and the choice of a wiser course of action, a crucial distinction we often overlook. Firstly, the modern world accelerates everything, including our thinking and behavior. Imagine someone reading negative comments on social media. A reaction might be an immediate emotional reply, escalating the situation. A response, however, involves weighing the value of replying at all. The problem is that many people mistakenly believe that the quicker their response, the stronger they appear. In reality, the opposite is often true. Reacting without thought makes us more easily controlled by external circumstances. Social media, while a powerful tool, can become toxic without careful self-control. Stoic philosophy offers a helpful principle. You cannot control the world, but you can control how you respond to it. This isn't just theory. It's a practical skill that can transform lives. For example, when someone speaks harshly to you, the instinctive reaction might be to retaliate with the same tone. But by pausing, processing the information, and responding calmly, the outcome is far better. You not only avoid unnecessary conflict, but also demonstrate self-mastery, becoming a calm presence in a world filled with impulsive reactions. The ability to respond calmly is a superpower. Reacting impulsively can lead to hurt feelings, damaged relationships, and in severe cases, people losing their jobs or facing online harassment. As humans in an often overwhelming world, we're prone to react instinctively. It's how our brains are wired. The human brain, designed for survival rather than lengthy contemplation, has a limbic system, especially the amygdala, that acts like an automatic alarm. When emotions are triggered, this alarm sounds, and our bodies move before we even have time to think. This is helpful in immediate danger, like avoiding a speeding car, but in everyday life, it can cause unnecessary problems. The good news is that our brains are adaptable, like a muscle. They can be trained and strengthened through practice in how we think and respond. We can improve. Here's how. Become aware of your triggers. Everyone has different sensitivities. Some are easily provoked by criticism, while others are quick to anger when they feel disrespected. Like a chess player anticipating their opponent's moves, understanding what sets you off allows you to prepare a calmer response. Practice pausing. Before reacting, take a moment to breathe deeply. This simple act creates space between the trigger and your response, preventing impulsive actions you might regret. Cultivate empathy. Try to understand the other person's perspective. Often anger stems from misunderstanding or pain. Responding with compassion can diffuse tension and foster connection. Use the technique of reframing. This involves changing the lens through which you see the world. For example, if someone criticizes your work, ask yourself if it's truly a personal attack or simply feedback that could help you grow. How we interpret events greatly influences our emotional state. Practice regularly in calm moments. Don't wait until you're already angry or stressed to start practicing. That's like trying to learn to swim as the ship is sinking. Meditation, journaling, or simply sitting quietly for a few minutes. Each day can build emotional resilience. Develop small habits that foster patience. If you usually fire off an emotional text message, try waiting 5 minutes first. If you tend to become immediately defensive when criticized, try listening without interrupting. These small practices build significant patience over time. Remember that not everything requires your reaction. Some things are best left alone. Not every negative comment needs a response. and not every provocation deserves engagement. Sometimes silence is the most powerful response. Think of it this way. If you're standing by a peaceful lake and someone throws in a rock, would you jump in after it? Or would you simply watch the ripples fade and let the lake return to its stillness? When you learn to choose your responses rather than react automatically, you gain greater control over your life. The ability to pause gives someone immense power. This isn't just about suppressing emotions or being patient, but about recognizing what triggers those emotions within yourself. By doing this, both your body and mind can respond in a more controlled way. For example, someone might realize that their anger while driving isn't always caused by other drivers' actions, but also by their own interpretations or biases about the situation. By taking a moment before reacting, that person can choose to remain calm and focused on their journey without being overwhelmed by anger. The idea of pausing before acting isn't just a theory, it's supported by scientific evidence. For instance, the 90-second rule suggests that when a negative emotion arises, if you remain still and don't react for 90 seconds, the intensity of that emotion will subside, and your brain will return to a more rational state. This highlights that most emotions are temporary. If we don't continuously fuel them with our own thoughts, there's a significant difference between suppressing emotions and managing them. Suppressing emotions means avoiding them, while managing them means giving yourself space to understand the feelings that arise without immediately acting on impulse. It's similar to letting muddy water in a glass settle until it becomes clear, instead of constantly stirring it up. However, this practice also presents challenges. Excessive introspection can lead to indecision and difficulty making choices. Some people even feel increased anxiety from focusing too much on their thoughts and emotions. Therefore, balance is key. One needs to learn when to pause and when to act without excessive deliberation. Ultimately, the ability to respond thoughtfully, rather than react impulsively, not only helps in managing emotions, but also improves the quality of relationships and decision-making. The world will always provide triggers. There will always be situations that evoke anger, frustration, or disappointment. But by training the mind to respond, one no longer remains a victim of emotions and external circumstances. Instead, they gain greater control over themselves. And that's the true power of self-awareness. One way to achieve this is through mindfulness practice. Mindfulness helps us to be fully present in the current moment, without getting caught up in worries about the past or anxieties about the future. A fundamental principle in Stoic philosophy. Imagine someone constantly dwelling on what might happen tomorrow or regretting decisions from yesterday. They aren't truly living, only trapped in regret and fear. Yet the only thing we can genuinely control is how we respond in the present. Furthermore, mindfulness training helps us recognize our own thought patterns. Many of us tend to react automatically to certain situations.
When we experience anger when criticized, anxiety when facing uncertainty, or frustration when plans don't go as expected, mindfulness is there to help us recognize these patterns. Through mindfulness, we begin to notice the urge to react even before we actually do it. This awareness gives us the opportunity to pause and ask ourselves, is this the wisest reaction? Is this truly what I want? Interestingly, research also shows that consistent mindfulness practice can strengthen the parts of the brain responsible for decision-making and self-control. This means that the more we practice, the easier it becomes for us to respond calmly rather than simply reacting emotionally. This aligns with the teachings of Stoicism, which emphasize the importance of wisdom and self-control. Furthermore, mindfulness teaches us to accept reality as it is. Many people tend to avoid discomfort by suppressing their emotions or seeking distractions. However, Stoicism and mindfulness offer a different approach, facing those feelings with full awareness, without resistance, and without denial. This doesn't mean we become passive. Instead, we learn to recognize those feelings without having to be overwhelmed by them. Observe how young children experience emotions. They might cry over something trivial, but a few minutes later, they're laughing as if nothing happened. They don't suppress their emotions, but they also don't get stuck in them. Mindfulness allows us to do something similar, to feel without drowning, to accept without being swept away. So how can we practice mindfulness to apply it in everyday life? One of the simplest methods is breathwork. When emotions start to take over, try taking a deep breath, holding it for a moment and then exhaling slowly. This gives our brain time to process the situation before we act. Another method is to observe thoughts like clouds in the sky. When the urge to react arises, imagine those thoughts as clouds coming and going. We don't need to push them away, but we also don't have to be carried away by them. This gives us space to choose a wiser response. There's also the body scan technique, where we pay attention to the sensations in our body slowly, from head to toe, to recognize areas of the body that are stressed or angry. Some might ask, can this practice really change our lives? The answer depends on how consistently we practice it. Mindfulness isn't just a theory. It's a skill that needs to be trained every day. Like a warrior training their resilience before battle, we too need to train our minds before facing a world full of challenges. If you think about it, isn't this the core of Stoic philosophy? Life will never stop giving us reasons to react. Traffic jams, annoying people, bad news, uncertainty. But with mindfulness practice, we are no longer tossed around by it all. The ability to remain calm amidst hardship, to respond with wisdom rather than react impulsively, is perhaps the key to a more peaceful, stable, and aligned life with the principles of Stoicism. One crucial step in achieving this is to shift our perspective and focus on the things we can truly control. Firstly, the world is filled with things beyond our control. The weather, other people's opinions, unexpected events. All of these happen without our permission. Paradoxically, the more we try to control what's out of our reach, the greater the frustration that arises, like trying to grasp wet sand. The tighter we clench our fist, the more it slips away. This is life's biggest trap, attempting to control the uncontrollable. Secondly, our minds function like a flashlight. Wherever the light is directed, that's where our focus lies. If we constantly highlight the things we cannot change, then we will only see the uncertainty, injustice, and flaws that exist in the world. But if we direct that light inward, towards how we respond, towards the small actions we can still take, suddenly the world doesn't feel quite so chaotic. This doesn't mean we ignore reality. Rather, we see it with greater clarity. Thirdly, if we are always anxious about what's beyond our control, does that truly mean we care? Or are we instead caught in an illusion of control? This is where the difference lies. Someone who genuinely cares will direct their energy towards concrete actions that can bring about change, rather than simply complaining or being angry at the situation. We often mistake anger for a sign of caring, when in many cases, it's merely an emotional reaction that has no impact whatsoever. Many people think that cursing the circumstances means blaming themselves, but that's not the case. Release the energy of anger. Dare to take decisions that can change the situation. For example, someone who constantly complains about their poor health, while only staying still and brooding, will only worsen the existing condition. One of the most effective ways is to ask yourself before reacting to something, is this within my control? If the answer is no, then there's no point in wasting energy on it. Focus your attention on what can still be done. This isn't just theory, it's also scientifically proven. Numerous studies show that people who adopt this mindset tend to be happier and calmer than those who constantly worry about things they cannot control. Even when everything doesn't go according to our wishes, we always have a choice. We will face rejection, failure, or injustice, but we can choose how we interpret those things and whether or not we allow them to dictate our emotions. This is true power, not control over the external world, but control over our own responses. Instead of complaining about the rain, for example, we can seek solutions, run for shelter, enjoy the sensation of the rain, or even dance in it. The situation is the same, but the response is different. Finally, if there's one thing we can take away from this philosophy, it's the freedom to choose how we respond. The world won't always be kind, but we always have the option to remain wise. So, do we want to keep spending energy on things we can't change? Or start focusing our attention on the things we truly can control? To implement habits of responding in everyday life, there are several steps we can take. First, begin the day with a clear intention. Every morning, before checking your phone or jumping into your routine, ask yourself, what is the most important thing I want to achieve today? With a clear intention, we no longer simply react to incoming demands, but respond to them with a predetermined direction. This is like a captain who has a map. Storms may come, but they know where they need to sail. Second, practice pausing before reacting. Most problems arise not from the situations themselves, but from how we respond to them. In psychology, there's the concept of the space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies our freedom to choose. For example, if someone cuts in line in front of us, or if someone sends an anger-inducing message, wait 10 minutes before replying. This doesn't mean we suppress emotions. Third, build an environment that supports these habits. Not everyone can maintain composure like a Stoic philosopher, especially if their surroundings are full of tension. Therefore, create a space that helps us become more aware and calm. This could involve setting boundaries on energy-draining interactions, curating social media feeds to be more positive, or simply setting aside a small corner at home for moments of reflection. Fourth, use questions to shift perspective. Instead of reacting negatively immediately, try asking, will this matter in 5 years? Or what can I learn from this situation? Questions like these shift the focus from anger towards understanding. Many great leaders known for their composure under pressure use this strategy, not because they lack emotions, but because they know when and how to use them. Fifth, develop discipline in speaking and acting. One Stoic principle is to speak only if it's necessary, kind, or true. In other words, not everything needs to be commented on. Not every argument needs to be won. In everyday life, this means being more selective in choosing battles, not making inflammatory comments on social media, or ignoring people who don't understand our struggles. This isn't about always being gentle, but about choosing what deserves attention. Sixth, find a balance between suppressing and expressing emotions. Reacting impulsively isn't the same as suppressing emotions, which can trigger anxiety or even anger that explodes at the wrong time. Therefore, there needs to be a healthy way to channel emotions, whether it's through journaling, exercise, or talking to someone you trust. Seventh, face criticism with a cool head. The world today is filled with competing opinions and narratives, and there will always be people who disagree with us. Consider whether the criticism is constructive or simply unnecessary mockery. Learn to disregard reactions that aren't helpful. Eighth, cultivate emotional resilience. There will be times when we still get triggered by emotions or fail to apply these principles. Alright, so with awareness, it's totally normal to realize you've messed up. Learn from it and keep practicing, just like muscles. Getting good at responding wisely takes time and consistency, you know? Think about it. When someone gets startled by a loud noise, what happens? They jump, their eyes go wide, and they gasp. That's a reaction. Taking a deep breath, counting to 10, and picking your words carefully before you say something, that's responding. From a Stoic point of view, the difference between reacting and responding isn't just about the time you take, but also about who's in control. When we react, we're like a leaf in the wind, getting tossed around by our emotions, our surroundings, and whatever happens to us. But when we respond, we're controlling the wind. We decide how to act, instead of just going with whatever impulse pops up inside us. So here's a cool question. Is reacting always a bad thing? Nah, not really. In an emergency, reacting fast can save your life. But in everyday life, most of our problems come from how we react to stuff, not from the stuff itself. Like, say someone sends a nasty message, and you fire back angrily without thinking. What happens? The fight gets bigger. But if you respond calmly and try to understand where they're coming from, the whole thing could turn into a way better conversation. And there's a biological reason why we often react emotionally. The human brain has a part called the amygdala, which is like a super fast alarm system for threats. The amygdala is awesome, but it can also overreact, making us get angry or scared about stuff that isn't actually dangerous. On the flip side, responding wisely comes from the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles rational thinking and making good choices. When we get better at responding, we're basically beefing up this part of our brain, making it stronger and more in charge of our lives. This is what lets us think clearly and stay calm. Does this mean we have to ditch spontaneity and emotions? Some people think so. But Stoicism isn't about killing your feelings. It's about using them in a more focused way, like an artist who doesn't just throw paint at a canvas, but carefully chooses colors and brush strokes to create a beautiful painting. There's another risk if you focus too much on being in control. Will you lose your authenticity? It's an interesting problem. On one hand, too much control can make someone seem stiff and fake, like they're not even human. But on the other hand, having no control at all leaves you at the mercy of every little thing that happens. The key is finding a balance. We don't have to suppress our emotions all the time, but we also can't let them run the show. So, to wrap things up with one last analogy, picture yourself as a driver and your emotions as the car. If you completely hand over the keys to the car, you could end up crashing. But if you're too scared to even drive, you'll never go anywhere. A good driver knows when to hit the gas, when to brake, and when to just enjoy the ride. So, do you want to be someone who's always just reacting without thinking? Or someone who can respond wisely? The choice is always yours. Here are some practical tips to build a more responsive lifestyle. First, get to know your usual reaction patterns. Not everyone reacts the same way to stuff. Some people get angry super easily, while others tend to withdraw. Once you can recognize these patterns in yourself, the next step is to learn how to break the cycle. Becoming more self-aware helps us respond in a more thoughtful way. This isn't just about avoiding big blowouts, but also about dealing with the little things. For example, you'll be more aware of when your emotions start to take over, and this gives you a chance to choose a better response. Second, get into the habit of pausing for a moment before reacting. In everyday life, we often have to react quickly to things. The problem is, our brains are wired to act automatically, but there's no rule saying you have to react right away. Consider asking yourself, is this in my control? If it isn't, will my reaction change anything? If the answer is no, then there's no point in wasting energy on anger, frustration, or getting too caught up in your feelings. However, if it is in your control, then your response should be geared towards finding a solution, not just venting. Third, there's a risk you might be aware of or not. When we focus too much on being in control, will we lose our emotions? Will we, as humans, end up seeming like robots who don't care about anything? This is one of life's interesting paradoxes. On one hand, reacting too much can make us lose control of our lives. But on the other hand, suppressing emotions too much can also make us lose our spontaneity. So, the key is finding a balance. We can still feel annoyed, angry, sad, or disappointed, but while still having control over how those emotions are expressed. Imagine if everyone in the world only responded with logic, without a hint of emotion. Life might be calmer, but it would also feel pretty bland. Like food without any seasoning. Emotions are necessary. It's how we manage them that matters. And now the question is, in your daily life, do you react more often or respond? In conclusion, let's move forward with Stoic wisdom. First, if there's one thing to remember from all of this, it's that training yourself to respond isn't just a skill. No one is born with the ability to always stay calm in the face of this stressful world. But anyone can train themselves. Every time you choose not to react impulsively, that's a small victory. Every time you manage to hold back your anger, to refrain from saying something you'll later regret, or to put it another way, when you take a moment before deciding something, you're building a stronger mental foundation. Secondly, this journey isn't always smooth sailing. There will be times when you get triggered, times when emotions take over, and you might act without really thinking. That's not a failure. It's a normal part of the process. The important thing isn't whether you fall down once in a while, but whether you get back up and learn from it. Wise people aren't the ones who never make mistakes, but the ones who learn from their mistakes. So don't be too hard on yourself if you still have moments where you react without thinking. Those are just opportunities to understand yourself better. Thirdly, imagine what your life would be like if these principles really became a part of you. Your relationships with the people around you would change. When you're no longer easily provoked by negative comments, you'll have more control over your own happiness. When you no longer act on impulse, you'll be more trusted, more respected, and more valued in both social and professional settings. When you can stay calm in stressful situations, you'll be seen as someone with incredible mental strength, and most importantly, you'll feel more at peace. But of course, this isn't just about how other people see you. It's about how you see and treat yourself. You're no longer a victim of circumstances. You have the power to choose how you respond. And remember, we're human. We can't completely get rid of emotions, and maybe we shouldn't even try. The key is how we're able to channel them in a healthy way. Anger, fear, and sadness aren't the enemy. They just need to be directed wisely. So where do we go from here? If there's one thing you can start doing right away, try this for the next few days. Every time you feel the urge to react quickly, take one deep breath. That's it. One breath before replying to an emotionally charged message. One breath before responding to someone who's annoying you. One breath before you decide to take action. It sounds simple, but the effect can be amazing. And if you want to continue exploring Stoic philosophy and how to apply it in your daily life, make sure to stick around for this journey. Don't forget to subscribe because there's still a lot of interesting stuff we're going to discuss. Remember, controlling your reactions isn't about becoming perfect, but about constantly practicing to become better. See you in the next video.
you.